Hello. Welcome to our next chapter, comparatively less important chapter and easy chapter. Please do not skip this chapter. It is accounts and records receivable. Okay, so let's start with accounts and records. So that is basically it says that what person has to maintain what accounts and records. You need not learn this. I will just be covering. Just listen to this and you can move forward. You do not have to learn this. Okay. So every registered person shall keep and maintain books of account. BOA stands for books of accounts at PPOB and APOB. That is your principal place of business and your additional place of business. Okay. So these books of accounts should be kept. So following accounts to be maintained, that is your production or manufacture of goods. So all these you have to maintain account. You have to keep books of all these things. So production or manufacture of goods, inward outward supply of goods and services, stock of goods, what ITC you have availed, output tax paid and payable, goods or services imported and exported, supplies attracting payment on RCM. RCM is your reverse charge mechanism. Next is account of advances received, paid and adjusted. That is whatever amount you have received because that will affect your time of supply. Therefore, these are important. Okay. Now next is your customer master and your vendor master. That is a detail about all your customers and all your vendors. It might be their phone number, name, customer ID, vendor ID, their addresses, their point of contact, how much amount their GST number, PAN number, all of this, etc. etc. Okay. Address of premises where goods are stored, that is wherever the goods are kept, their address. Okay. Now these things all now I have also put this special thing that is either it will only be applicable to them or it will not be applicable to them. So stock of goods and details of tax, these two things, composition scheme taxpayer is not required because your composition scheme does not have anything to do with relation to tax, that is your ITs or etc. Therefore, they do not have to maintain this. Okay. Now these next items are only for agents. So this where composition scheme is not applicable. This is only applicable for agent. So authorization received from principal, description, value, quantity of goods received and supplied to the principal. Next is your account furnished to every principal. That is whatever accounts that you have furnished. Now you might have multiple principals, so that also detail you have to keep. Now this next thing only manufacturers have to keep, that is monthly production account. That is how much amount you have produced. These things only service provider has to keep, that is goods used in provision of service. Input services utilized and supplied. Okay, so whatever services you have consumed, that is input services utilized and supplied. Next is names and address of customers. So only you have to keep who has to keep this, that is the person who is doing work contract. I hope I understand, everybody understands what work contract is. So name and address of customer, value and quantity of goods or services received and utilized to execute work contract. That is how much goods and services he himself has utilized to execute such a work contract. Next is your details of payment received with respect to each work contract as to how much amount he has received. Then these only a go down owner has to keep, that is records of consignor consignee. And last is this transporter has to keep, that is goods transported and delivered. Okay. So these are the documents that have to be kept. Now for how long do these documents have to be kept? These documents shall be kept. Period of retention of accounts and records is 72 months from due date of furnishing of annual return of the year. That is whichever date you have furnished the annual return, 72 months from that date these returns should be kept. However, if he is a party to appeal, that means if he's made any appeal or revision or any investigation is going on, he shall retain for 1 year after the final disposal of ongoing appeal. Of course, this 1 year is applicable if this 72 months period is already over. Of course, so therefore, this is basically either 72 months or 1 year, whichever is higher for cases where appeal, revision, etc. investigation is going on. So if your 72 months period is over, you should still keep it for 1 year after the final disposal of the ongoing appeal, investigation, etc. 72 months, if you divide it by 12, it is approximately, it comes to 6 years. So basically, you have to remember that books of accounts have to be kept for 6 years. Okay, but for exam purpose, please write 72 months, do not write 6 years. Okay. This is Eway bill. So first we'll do Eway bill. Okay, so this was with regards to your accounts and records. So now your e-way bill is the concept that was introduced so that any goods are being transported, they should have some document with regards to prove that these goods are actually being transported and they are being sent from one place to another. So it is an electronic document generated on GST portal evidencing movement of goods. So this e-way bill shows evidence that my goods have moved from one place to another. The form is your GST EWB01. How do you know this? GST e-way bill 01. This is how you read form numbers. Next is, so this form has two parts, that is your part A and part B. So part A is generated by the person who causes movement of goods, that is whoever is sending the goods, whoever is causing the movement of goods. Part A is generated by such person. Part B is generated by the transporter. The transporter is the person who is taking these goods from point A to point B, so that part B, the transporter, is generating. Now, when do I have to generate this? Do I have to generate this every time? No, there are some conditions given. So it is to be generated when value of goods is greater than 50,000. That is, the goods value, that is goods that are being transported, their value is greater than 50,000. Or that means either this or that. Okay, so it is a or condition, it is not a and condition. Or when interstate goods are being moved from principal to job worker, that is if the goods are being sent by a principal to job worker and it is interstate, that means principal is in one state and job worker is in different state, then in such a case, since it is an interstate movement, e-way bill will have to be generated. So either your goods value is more than 50,000 or it is being sent by a principal to a job worker in different states. In such a case, e-way bill has to be generated. Otherwise, e-way bill need not be generated and not required. If distance is less than 50 kilometers and within the same state, then e-way bill is not required. So this you have to make sure it is less than or equal to 50 kilometers. In such a case, e-way bill will not be required. Your next form is your GST EWB02. So if you remember, we did your form GST EWB01, which has two parts, part A and part B. Part A is generated by the person who is causing movement of the goods. Part B is generated by the transporter, that is the person who is transporting the goods. Now comes your next form, that is your GST EWB02, GST E-Bill 02. When multiple consignments are transported in one conveyance, that is one vehicle has consignments of multiple people. In such a case, GST EWB02 is filed. E-way bill may be cancelled within 24 hours of generation. So if you generated an e-way bill, you will get time to cancel this only within 24 hours of the time that you have generated. Okay, now what is my validity of an e-way bill? If I generate it today, till how long will it be valid? So for over-dimensional cargo, these are your big cargos. So it will up to 20 kilometers. If the distance traveled is up to 20 kilometers, your validity will be 1 day, and it will be for every additional 20 kilometers, it will be plus 1 day. Okay, so that is your over dimensional cargo. That is, these are your big cargos. So up to 20 kilometers, it is 1 day, and for every additional 20 kilometers, it is one extra day. And for other than those that are over dimensional cargo, that is other than over dimensional cargos, which are not dimensional cargos, since they can move faster, they have given it boss up to 200 kilometers, it is 1 day, and for every additional 200 kilometers it is plus 1 day. So if you see, it is 20 plus 20, 200 plus 200. Okay, so for every 200 kilometers you get 1 day extra of validity. So this is an example I've given. So suppose e-way bill is generated at 11:58, that is at night. So 23:58 on 14th March. So on 14th March, if my e-way bill is generated at night, 23:58. So now this bill, the first day would end on 12 o'clock midnight of 15/16. So that means it does not mean that was 12 o'clock will be of 14 March and 15 March night. No, 12 o'clock will be a night of 15th and 16th March. That is what is meant by 1 day validity. Okay. E-way bill is not required. E-way bill will not be required if goods are transported. If certain goods are transported, in such a case, e-way bill will not be required. Okay. So first is your LPG for supply to household. LPG cylinder that is being supplied to household, no e-way bill required. Pearls, precious stones, and metals, no e-way bill required. Jewelry, gold, silverware, currency, kerosene oil sold in your PDS. that is your public distribution system. Any used personal household effects, any postal baggage or department of post, or any courier that are being transported, e-way bill is not required if such goods are being transported. Okay. Next is if it is being transported by a non-motorized conveyance, that is the conveyance, the vehicle does not have a motor. So possible that we are shipping it through a bullock cart, or we are transporting via a physical person which does not have any motor. Next is from custom port to ICD or CFA, that is your inland container depot. So by custom, so if it is being transferred from the custom port to the ICD, e-way bill is not required. Or if my goods that are being transported are exempt from tax, e-way bill is not required. If any alcoholic liquor for human consumption, high-speed diesel, petroleum crude, motor spirit, ATV, natural gas, because these are outside the scope of GST for now. So therefore, these, if these are being transported, it will not be, e-way bill will not be required. If the goods being transported are not considered as supply, we have done this in chapter 2, that is what is supply and what is not supply. So if there is not supply at all, then why will e-way bill be required? Next is if they are transit cargo from or to Nepal or Bhutan, what happens since India has a port and Nepal does not have a port? So sometimes most of the time the ships will come to India and they will deliver at the port of India. Now these goods, these shipments will be traveling through India to reach Nepal or through India to reach Bhutan. In such a case, since these do not belong to India, therefore transit cargo, therefore it is called transit cargo to or from Nepal, Bhutan, that will not require a e-way bill. Okay, next is movement caused by defense formation. Any if the defense needs no e-way bill. Next is consigner of goods by rail is your CG, SG or local authority. That is if your consigner is your central government, state government or a local authority and goods are being sent by rail. In such a case, e-way bill is not required. And your last part is if empty cargo containers are being sent. If empty cargo containers, so how shipping works, there is a ship and in the ship there are containers and in the container there are your goods. So if empty container, that is the big container that you see, those are being transported, e-way bill is not required because what these are empty. What will you make an e-way bill for? Okay, and blocking e-way bill generation facility is your point. So composition scheme taxpayer, if he has not furnished statement for 2 consecutive quarters, his e-way bill generation will be blocked. Okay. Next is your regular scheme taxpayer has not furnished return for 2 consecutive tax periods. So your composition scheme is 2 consecutive quarters. Your regular is 2 consecutive tax period. If any regular scheme taxpayer has not furnished GSTR 1 for 2 months or quarter, whichever he has taken, either he has taken quarterly filing or monthly filing. If he has not done it for 2 consecutive, then in such a case, so over here it is furnished statements. Okay, and over here it is furnished GSTR 1. Okay, and next is your person whose registration has been suspended. Of course, he will not be allowed to he will not be allowed to generate e-way bill because his registration has been suspended. Okay, and with this we are done with this chapter. Like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.